Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our 2020 goal setting webinar. Real excited to give this webinar. It's a new year, it's a new start, it's a new decade. And I know what talking to a lot of our clients out there, they're looking for more out of not only their personal lives, but their business lives. They're looking to say, I really want to be a better version of me in the next year, 5 years, 10 years. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need some skills. I'm going to need some tools. I'm going to need a roadmap. I'm going to need to have a path forward that's going to let me do that and be the most effective version of me that I can become. So we know that there's a lot of stuff around goal setting out there, and we're going to walk you through that in the next hour. Ultimately, we've got about 55, 60 minutes to do this. Everybody's coming in muted, so don't worry about that. We do have a questions button at the bottom. We will be using it in the webinar. We're just going to ask you for a little bit of interaction. It's at the bottom of your screen. It says questions. We're going to ask you to type in an answer, not a question. If there are questions that are going to come up, please feel free to keep it to the end. I'll stay on a little bit to see if any questions do pop up that we can help you with as we go through the actual seminar today. I'm not going to be stopping necessarily to answer questions unless I specifically ask you to respond to me. So we have a couple of poll questions we're going to ask you to participate in. We're going to move pretty quick today. Like I said, we only have about 50, 55 minutes that we're going to do this in. So there's going to be a lot of content that we're going to cover. We're going to have some special offers at the end. If there's something that you feel can help you achieve your goals for 2020, there might be some things that we're going to offer just as kind of a thank you for participating in this webinar with us. And there will be a recording of the webinar so that we'll give you a link to it through Dropbox so that if you want to go back and watch and just so you don't miss anything, that will also be available to you. So what's our purpose today? It's really to help you set the goals that help you overachieve in 2020. That's our primary purpose. And like I had mentioned, we're going to be walking through a couple of those things as we go. Oops, sorry, I went too far. So the first thing that we're going to ask for is a little bit of interaction from you. And we want to know what are some of the things that you hope you would or could do differently or better next year in your role? What do you want to be better at? What is your goals that you've already thought about? This is where you're going to go down to the bottom of your screen. You're going to go into the questions, and then you're going to start writing a couple of answers to that. So if you could do that for us, that would allow us just to share some of the things that people on this webinar are thinking about that they want to be better at or do better. So just drop down to the bottom of your screen, and you can start writing some things in. I see a couple things here. More timely follow-up on client questions. That's one of the goals. Do better, right? That's a fairly generic one I see out there. I see one person who says they want to achieve their revenue targets for 2020. Want to be able to stick with areas of work that you need to do but get put off, so help with some procrastination. So I just wanted to get you thinking a little bit about how you are going to be better. What does that really look like? So I really appreciate the people who've kind of thrown out some answers there for us. And anytime that we're about growth, right, we want to think about as a person in a role, how are we going to achieve growth? And that's really important. Now, once we figure out how we're going to do it, the next question is, what is it costing you if you don't do it, right? So let's pretend you didn't get better. Let's pretend you didn't achieve any goals. Now, I realize you might have some other goals and ideas out there that are not business related, that don't necessarily kind of connect to this concept. But all of us probably have some kind of role that we're playing in sales. And so we're going to show a poll here. We're going to launch it. I just want you to think about your actual cost. What would this be costing you if you did not get it? So I'm going to launch the poll, and you should see a poll pop up on your screen. And if you could take a second to throw in your answer, we'll give you a minute. All right, we see a few people throwing in some kind of all over the place. We'll give you just a couple more minutes. All right. Looks like we've got some big numbers out there as well. In 10 seconds, I'm going to close it. So if you can just get your vote in if you haven't, we'll end the polling and we'll share the results. So you can see that for a lot of it's pretty much spread out in what this is actually costing us. On the high side, we have a couple people saying 250,000 plus. We got a lot of people in that mid range, that 10,000 to 50,000 or 50,000 to 100,000. And the reason that I want people to think about that is not because really the number so much, but it's a tangible thought. It's what gets you thinking about what numbers, like when if we were actually to do a certain behavior, achieve a certain goal, that would actually drive that kind of revenue into either our businesses or into our lives. And if we had that revenue, what could we do with it, right? So a lot of us, we're not maybe that money oriented or money driven. And it's not so much the money, it's what are we going to do with the money? So that's why I wanted you to get just a little bit of thought around a tangible number. Oh, I just, sorry about that. Sorry, we just had a little technical glitch here. I apologize. All right, I apologize for that. We just had a little technical glitch. All right, so we talked about that. I wanted to share the Sandler. We talk a lot with our clients, and I know some of you probably are in some of our sessions. Some of you are not as familiar with Sandler because you haven't been part of our regular training. But we talk a lot about the success triangles. We talk about things like behaviors, attitudes, and techniques. And we're talking about goal setting. There's a lot of stuff around the attitude at the top here around goal setting. People have certain beliefs, certain thoughts about goal setting. We've probably met everybody and we've talked a little bit in our families about goal setting. And maybe you have a goal like when you were younger, you wanted to get your degree, or maybe you wanted to get a specific job. And so we set these things out there as goals, but a lot of times we don't have any behaviors around that. So we say, I really want that, but I don't really have a path to get there, right? I don't really have a set of behaviors that I'm going to be following that's going to allow me to be more likely to succeed or get that. Sometimes we don't have the techniques, right? So if we have sales goals, for example, where we want to go out and we want to gain new clients, we might have the mindset, yeah, I want to do it. We might even have the behaviors, but sometimes we're missing the techniques. So as we're creating our goals and working through what that process even looks like today, I really want you to be thinking about not just setting the goal, but the how behind the goal. How am I going to get there? Why do I want that goal? Because the purpose for today is to really have you set something that you're connected to and then have a path forward. That's ultimately what we're trying to have you accomplish here today. So the success triangles can be very helpful with that. Now, I want to go back to one more poll. So if we're looking at goals and we have some thoughts around that, whether behaviorally or mentally or technically, I want to just kind of get your feeling on which one of those is the most difficult for you to change. And so we'll open that second poll. I'll just stop sharing those results. And we'll go to the second poll and we'll launch this one. All right, so just one of these things. Out of those Sandler success principles, which one of these do you think is the most difficult to change? All right, looks like we have a clear winner on this one. We'll end the polling here in about 10 seconds. So behavior won out by a landslide. Most difficult for us to change. How do we change behaviors? We know that behaviors lead to us achieving our goals. If we do enough of the right behaviors, there's a good chance we'll get our goal. We all know this. It's not hard for us to figure out. But we have a challenge there. And I want to talk about why that challenge is even happening to us. And how do we possibly even change those behaviors effectively and long term. So the first thing that is really important in all of this is we have to have a vision about where we want to go. Alice in Wonderland had a little saying, or that she was the Mad Hatter, as they were going through some discussion together. He said to her, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, "I don't know." Well, then he goes, "I guess it doesn't matter which path you take." I talk to a lot of people in business and in life who don't have a clear vision for themselves. They don't know why they're here. They don't know what they're trying to do. They don't know what's important to them. And they have never created their own personal vision for their life. And the problem is then setting goals becomes very difficult because a lot of times we don't know if the goal really matters to us. We don't know the why behind the goal. We don't have any real connections to the goals. And that's why most people then never attain them. It's because they don't even know if they want them. So there has to be a little bit of time of what's really driving me here? What's the purpose here? Connecting that to personal goals, and then understanding your own personal motivation. What motivates you more, pain versus pleasure? When we talk to people about that motivation to change, if you need a new behavior, the problem is sometimes there's no immediate pain if you don't change the behavior. And if you talk about health goals, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why people don't change their eating habits. If I don't get healthier and eat healthier, there's no immediate pain. If I eat a Big Mac, I don't fall over with a heart attack now, right? That would be pain. I would be very motivated to not eat a Big Mac if I ate one and I had a heart attack, right? That would be pain. But that's really not what happens. So a lot of times we go, yeah, I know I shouldn't probably eat this. I should eat more salad. I should food prep. I should plan my meals, all that kind of stuff. We all think that, but then we don't do it because the motivation isn't big enough for us. We're not reminding ourselves as to the why behind the what. So that's a big issue. Sometimes some of us are motivated by pleasure, right? There's something we want out of it that's fun and exciting. Maybe it's a trip. Maybe it's a new experience, right? Either one of those are emotional. And anytime we get people to really create long-term sustainable change, it has to be connected to either pain or pleasure. If it's just intellectual, there's a really good chance people will never, ever achieve the goal because it just doesn't matter enough to them. So we got to know the why. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the why. Winston Churchill, I like to share this quote: "Plans are of little importance, but planning is essential." So this is another reason why a lot of times people don't spend time in their life. They say, Chad, there's so many things that happen that I have no control over. What's the point? Why set the goals? Why even try, right? My boss is going to do something to me. My family's going to do something to me. The economy is going to do something to me. And all of that means I have no control in any of this. And the point is, if you adopt that mindset, I'll guarantee you'll be right. But if you take the other mindset that, if I plan, I know that plans will change. And I know that things won't always stay where, in the direction that I wanted them to go. And that's okay. I'm still going to create the plan, to create the behavior, to create accountability. And there's a good chance I'll get moving in the right direction. And that's, I love Winston Churchill. I think he had some really great insights. Now, I wanted to share a quick little story about these two gentlemen that illustrates the whole concept of planning and goal setting. So these two gentlemen, if you're not a student of history, you may not recognize these two, but these two guys were adventurers. And they were guys who were living in the 1900s, late 1911, somewhere around there. And they both had a goal, right? They both had the goal of, I want to get to the South Pole and I want to be the first to walk there and back. That's a pretty audacious goal, right? Pretty audacious, right? And they're like, man, how are we going to do that? So they both took extremely different approaches to achieving that goal. So I want to talk a little bit about Roland to start with here, because Roland was a planner, right? Roland believed in kind of figuring out where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do, why he wanted to get there, and then he planned accordingly. So the first thing he knew he had to figure out was sailing, right? He was from Norway, had to get a sailing ship thing going, right? So he wanted to go, so he's going to go take some training because his goal, my goal is to walk there and back, right? I got to know how to sail there. That's problem number one. So he went and enrolled in a sailing course, 1899 in Spain. Well, he's in Norway, the course is in Spain. How is he going to get there? Well, he had a couple options. He he probably could have taken the train. Maybe he could have taken a boat, but he decided to bike. And he decided to take a bike because that's going to get him in shape. And if you're going to walk 1,400 kilometers, you got to be in shape. So he did that. Roland, he also figured out, man, what am I going to eat? I got to be ready for that. So he started eating raw dolphin meat and just anything like that. He was kind of a sushi connoisseur because that's probably all he was going to be able to eat on this frozen landmass. He wasn't going to have a lot to, no salads, right? So he had to be ready for that. He also looked for an expert and a mentor who was going to help him get there. If he was going to live in that Arctic environment, he wanted to learn from the best, right? So how am I going to get there? I'm going to find a mentor. The people he looked to be his mentor were the Inuit in Canada. He went and lived with them for a while to figure out how do they live? How do they move? How do they use dogs? How do they get around in this really cold, harsh environment? So he did all that, right? Lots of planning, lots of preparation, because he wanted to know that when he was going after his goal, there's a really good chance he was going to actually achieve it. So he went up against a guy named Scott, and we showed you a picture of him earlier. Scott, he kind of believed he had it all together. He was a Navy guy. He was pretty smart, came from British aristocracy, a family. And so he had all the same options to plan and get ready as Edmondson, but he didn't do it, right? He thought, you know what? I don't need to learn how to eat dolphin meat, and I don't really need to, test things out to see if they'll work in a cold weather environment. And this is I'm sharing one of the pictures of his team with a piece of equipment that was supposed to get him there. Wasn't that reliable. In fact, broke down fairly quick. And after it broke, they got to haul it all, right? It was pretty sad. And then, of course, the real sad part is Robert Scott in his journals kept talking about his lack of good luck, right? So as they were on this ice cap, every single day, Roland Amundsen would walk 20 miles. That was his behavior. So he had the goal, right? I'm going to get to my objective. I'm going to get to the South Pole. And every single day he walked 20 miles, no matter if it was snowing, a blizzard, or hot and sunny, whatever that looked like, he went. And what was interesting is that Roland Amundsen achieved his goal to the day that he predicted, because he never wavered from the predictability of his behavior. It was consistent. It was every single day. It was nonstop, right? That's what drove him. And he also had extras of things in case something broke. And he did little things like he put flags out a mile on each side of his food dump, just in case, he got lost. Because if you ever try to navigate in white conditions, it's pretty hard using just a compass. Robert Scott didn't have that much luck. He actually missed his food depot by 10 miles, and then everybody ended up dying, right? But it's interesting. He was always unlucky. My life's, it's just so unlucky. It's just so unlucky. And really, he just didn't create his own luck, because while he had the goal, he didn't have the behavior. He would go fast and slow. He didn't have a mindset of learning from other people. His technique was off, right? Because he didn't take that measured approach. He would just go as hard as he could for 80 miles, and then they would sit there for 4 days. So it was really inconsistent, didn't have the right approach to it, tried to use the wrong tools, whether that was motorized sleds. He also tried to use Welsh ponies. None of it really worked. And you can go visit him if you want in the Antarctic. Now, that's an old story, but I wanted to share another gentleman here. You probably recognize him, right? One of the most decorated athletes of all time in swimming, right? He was amazing as a swimmer, and he's been in all kinds of Olympics. Now, what's really interesting, if you watch his story, is that, in order to be great, in order to achieve those goals, he had to have a really strong why focus. So when he would do his swimming, he would spend hours in the pool. He would spend his birthday in the pool. He would spend Christmas in the pool. He never wavered from that hour after hour dedication, and he dominated his sport, and he achieved all this glory. But then after the Beijing Olympics, he kind of lost his way, and he kind of went, I don't know if I really want to be a swimmer still. I'm not sure. So he stopped doing the behaviors. He stopped practicing. And then he thought, well, maybe I should go back to swimming. He went back in it, and he wasn't winning, because the behaviors to support the goal were not there. And it took him till the Brazil Olympics to figure that one out again, and he won a bunch of gold medals. But when he wasn't performing and he wasn't practicing and he wasn't doing any of those things to achieve the goals, he couldn't win. He couldn't achieve them, especially at the elite level. So when we talk about elements of a good goals plan, there's a bunch of bullet points out there. Number one, you got to know your why. Why do you want that goal? What's it going to do for you? What's it going to do for people in your family? How does it relate to your vision for your life? How does it relate to your company's vision? How does it relate to your core values and beliefs? Now, this is where it gets a little fuzzy sometimes. I work with a lot of salespeople in sales roles who say, Chad, I want to make more money. I love money. I want to make more money. And I'm like, okay. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to outwork and out-hustle behaviorally your competitors. You're going to have to really figure out, you're going to have to be there on a regular basis. And sometimes the revenue number you want to meet requires you to put in a certain amount of hours into that job. You can't, you just have to be there. Now, what's the problem? What if those hours cut into your family time? And you say, well, actually, I don't know if I value money. I really value family. Family relationships are the most important thing in my life. That is critical. But yet you have this big revenue goal, and sometimes they're in conflict. And you have to say, well, maybe I need to make a conscious choice around what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it in order for me to achieve my life vision. So you got to understand what your values truly are. We put on there a vision board. I'm going to share my vision board in a minute with you. I think it's so important to have one. Vision boards really help take what you want in your life and put it in an image. And it really helps just kind of give you that focus for a goal attainment. And the other thing is, don't just have business goals. There was the CEO of Coca-Cola, and he said, there's a few balls that you're all juggling in the air. You're juggling family, you're juggling your own personal health in your life, you're juggling business, he says, and you're just trying to keep everything going, right? You're doing the juggle thing. And sometimes things drop, right? And if you drop the business goals, it bounces back. You can get those back. But if you drop family or personal or health, those shatter, and it's really tough to come back from. And when I heard that, I thought, yeah, you know what? I used to always focus tremendously on just achieving a business goal and a revenue goal, but I was missing all this other stuff. And it's really critical that you don't forget about the rest of your life. So I want to talk a little bit about vision. Vision is kind of maybe not where you are today or where your business is today, but where you want to be, right? It's how you see yourself in the future. And I wanted to share a couple of business ones here in case I've got some business leaders on the phone. You might have worked on your personal company business vision in the past. So, we say we are going to be the top performing Sandler office in the world. We're all going to be achieving our personal goals and our learning goals. We're going to share best practices with each other. We're going to be an organization built on trust, and we're going to challenge each other respectfully. And we're going to invest with our clients to be the best in the world, right? We're going to help them create the best sales team. That's kind of that company one. And you might be in a company that's got a vision, and if you know what it is, great. If you can't remember what it is, you might want to go back and look at that. What are our values, right? So we have this vision, but now what are our values? Authenticity. So we have to be, real with each other. We have to respect each other. That means listening to people's opinions. We want to strive for excellence. If something's not what we call excellent, we got to go back and redo it. We want to have discipline, right? We want the consistency to have the discipline of behavior. Humility. We don't know it all. We value learning. We value learning from others. We have an open mind. And then, of course, continuous learning. So you got to know what your core values are. Those are our company core values. You might have ones in your company as well, but you can also have personal ones. So this is my vision board that I wanted to share, and just to give you a little picture of what it looks like. We often have people in our sales mastery program. We ask them to make one every single year. And you'll notice mine, I'm not as artistic as what I've seen some people do, where they create very beautiful vision boards. Mine is just for myself. I put it in my office. And you'll see up there, there's lots of different images. And the first thing at the very top is my personal life vision. Why am I here on this earth? And I've taken some time to figure that out. I've thought about what is my purpose. And it's to make a difference in the lives of others so they can become the best version of themselves. That's my vision, right? I can do that at work. I can do that with my clients. I can do that with my family. Any one of those three apply. Then I've got different images here. Each image represents a key area of my life. You'll notice on the top, there's some rings. That's my marriage relationship. I have goals around that. I have a couple of pictures of some children there. Those are my boys on the ski hill with me. And I have some goals around being intentful about building that relationship with them. You'll notice in the middle, I've got a LinkedIn image, right? So that's a business prospecting goal. So I use LinkedIn pretty extensively to build my network and to meet new people, but I want to use it a little more intentfully than I've had. So I put that goal up there so that every morning I'm reminded I need to send out two connection requests every single morning before I do anything else. It's a very simple goal. I can easily do it, but it's about discipline and consistency. You'll notice the one with the head on there, the mind colors coming out of it. That's a growth mindset picture. And so what I'm trying to do with that one is that represents goals around reading and watching inspirational or teachable books and videos. So I believe in lifelong learning, continuous learning. So every month, at least one book around that. And every week, I want to watch one TED Talk or a video that makes me think differently. So right now, the book I've been working on is by Carol Dweck, and it's about growth mindset, right? She's done a lot of studies on that, and I'm learning a lot. I thought, man, I have a growth mindset, but then I realized, you know what? I don't know if I have a growth mindset. I'm missing a couple of things. So that for me represents an image that does that. There's some travel stuff in here that's just for fun and personal, and of course, healthy eating. Now, I look at all these goals, and when you put a goal out there, as you're creating the goal, you got to evaluate it, right? So on the 1 to 5 scale, 5 being, this is incredibly important to me. 1 being, it would be nice to do, but not that important. I got to be honest, the goal on the bottom with the food thing, I'm probably a 3. Now, because I'm probably a 3 with that goal, what does that mean? Well, the behavior behind that, which means making a healthy food choice for lunch 3 times a week, might be frankly a little bit challenging, because I'll give myself a pass pretty quickly on that one if I so choose. So I got to be careful with that. I put the goal up there. I'm not sure how committed I am to that goal. So when you do your vision board, or when you do some kind of process like this, you got to really be honest with yourself and say, 1 to 5, 5 being this will define my world in 2020. It will make a massive difference for me. And 1 being, I'd like it, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Ask yourself, should it get on your vision board? Now, I believe I need to be healthier. I'm just not sure I'm incredibly committed to it. I don't have enough pain right now to make me drive that forward. And I'm making choices as a result that, frankly, maybe aren't as good to help achieve that goal. All right. So personal goals. You probably need a financial goal that you want to look at, something in your life around finances, debt reduction, anything like that. It could be making more money, more sales, right? Something you want to achieve, a number, a goal. The key relationships in your life. I put marital up there. If you're not in that kind of relationship, but you have relationships. If they are not good, that you're probably not going to be able to perform in other areas of your life as well. So what would be your goals there that you could be mindful and intentful about? We talked about physical goals. I have some up there. If we're not healthy, I always talk to older people and they say, oh, I'm so thankful I have my health, or only I had my health. If we don't keep ourselves in a healthy state, it's pretty hard to achieve any of our other goals if you're sick in bed. Really hard to do. Recreational goals, just things you want to do, fun. Spiritual goals. This is an important one. Not that I'm saying you have to be religious, but a lot of times, if you look at the number and times people are stressed out in the world today, and it's a lot of times they don't know how to manage the stress. A stressed out individual typically can't perform at their peak. And they've shown it over and over again with athletes, right? If an athlete's really like overthinking things, they call it gripping the stick too tight, they're going to really struggle to achieve their long-term success. So you got to have some kind of thing that you're going to put into that column, whether that's meditation. I know we did this with our sales mastery class, and I was really interested to find out that a lot of people in that world use meditation to help them out in that spiritual mindset. Mentally, what are you going to put in your brain that's going to grow your mind? That's where I went back to reading and watching. If you're not a reader, there's tons of stuff on YouTube, but what are you going to pay attention to? Are you going to watch the news? Are you going to get scared in 2020? Or are you going to do something different? Are you going to see 2020 in the fact that Alberta or Edmonton, frankly, has the highest unemployment rate as like, oh my God, it's going to be a bad year. I'm so disappointed. Or are you going to use 2020 and go, wow, what an opportunity. I can't believe it. Man, it's going to get, although all my weak competitors are going to leave the market and I'm going to dominate, right? It's kind of that mindset, and what you feed it is going to help you either get it or not get it. So what are you saying to yourself? What's promoting that positive growth mindset? Personal development, that could be anything. Sometimes people, if you want to get better at cooking, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's personal development. It's going to be learning how to rock climb. I mean, whatever fits for you. And vocational, that's for your job. What are you going to learn there? So these are all things and categories that you should think about for your world in 2020 if you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, or even more than you thought was possible. So I wanted to bring this one up here, leading indicators, right? Leading indicators. These are the little behaviors that you're going to pay attention to, that if you watch them, they're going to make a massive difference in your world, right? So if you've ever read a book by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote a book called The Tipping Point, and it's a really interesting book. I would recommend you read it. But there's been a lot of studies around crime and what promotes crime, and they discovered that if graffiti was just kind of sprayed all over the place and just left, that oftentimes what happened was other crimes would increase, right? Because it was kind of like sending a message that we're not really caring about what's going on here. And it kind of just seemed to get into the social ethos, and all of a sudden crime rates would go up. They discovered that if they got rid of graffiti right away, painted it over, got rid of it, that actually helped with major crimes in the future. It was really an interesting connection. When we look at our lives and achieving the goals that you're going to put on there, there might be some leading indicators, little tiny behaviors that frankly make massive differences down the road. I talked about one that I hope that if I do more consistently, will do that in terms of my revenue goals. LinkedIn behavior. So a leading indicator for me is, have I every single day done 2 reach outs to people? I either did them or didn't do them. Now, it only takes me about 5 minutes maybe to do that. It doesn't take me very long. Very simple to do. And lo and behold, right, if I do it every single day over the course of the year, if I added up how many work days I had, and when it would be hundreds of reach outs. So it kind of grows exponentially. And out of those hundreds of people I reached out to, I only need a couple of people who say, you know what, I really want to talk to you. I think this is important. So when we're talking about business and leading indicators, what are the small little things you can do that could have potentially massive impacts? So for a lot of us, frankly, your morning habit is your problem. You come into work, and what's the first thing you do is you pop open your email. As soon as you pop open your email, now you're a slave to it. This person wants this person wants that. They want you to do this, they want you to do that, and now you get nothing done. What if you changed your habit? What if you said, you know what? I'm not going to look at email till 8:30. And in that half an hour, I'm going to do proactive behavior. I'm going to email people. I'm going to call people. I'm going to reach out on social media to people. Whatever it is that you need to do, that's going to drive it. If you do those small little things, it's likely going to create a long-term impact, and then you need to celebrate it. There was a psychologist who did a study about how do you create behaviors that lead to results. And it really said it came down to 3 things. Number 1, tie it to something you already do. So if you're a morning coffee drinker, some of us are, grab your cup of joe, right? And instead of opening up your email, grab your cup of coffee, send out some kind of proactive message to people. If you're in sales, that could be very useful, right? So I'm already drinking my cup of joe, send out a message. Real simple. Secondly, make it small. Remember, I didn't say I send out 1,000 of these a day. I sent out 2 every single day. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And it adds up, right? Small, simple, easy to do. And last thing you need to do is you need to celebrate it. You got to celebrate your success. You got to celebrate the behavior. How you celebrate it is very personal. It could be high-fiving with a peer. It could be creating some kind of accountability partner that you go, yeah, you did it today. Woo, woo. Everybody just does that. It's kind of why Weight Watchers works for people. Accountability, right? You stand on the scale in the front of a group of people and they say, hey, congratulations. You did it. You're paying attention. Awesome, right? But you got to know what those little leading indicators are that are going to lead to long-term success. Let's just talk about, let's say, a personal goal. If you say, I want better relationships, that's great. If you have a significant other in your life, you say, well, I want to make that relationship better this year. Awesome. That's the end result, though. What's the leading indicator? Well, that means every day when I come home, I'm going to put my phone away and I'm going to spend 1 hour of uninterrupted conversational time with no technology. Either you do that or you don't do it. That's a leading indicator. If you do that every single day, the end result will likely be a better relationship, right? Because you've spent time together. It's intentful, right? It's not distracted. So you got to make sure that you have some of those leading indicators identified. These are ones that are around business, right? So consistent, helping us achieve what we call our lagging indicators goal in terms of revenue. We talked about interacting with new people, referrals, new prospects on LinkedIn. These are all ways or goals that you might have around prospecting if you're in sales. If you're not in sales, it could be completely different. But they're always consistent, and they measure if we are effective at getting to that lagging indicator, which is either a dollar sign, a promotion, some kind of way that we go, yeah, I've made it. Lots of little steps to get to the end big step. All right, so elements. What else do we need? We need a way to measure, right? Got to measure the goal. Just to say, I want to feel better is not measurable. It has to have accountability. Somebody's got to hold you accountable. And you have to have it's got to be planned, right? So these are the 3 things that we need to have. Now, the issue that some of us have is that we try to be our own accountability partner. That's not great. Frankly, it doesn't work very well. And I would strongly suggest you don't do it. Now, one of the ways that we can develop goals is this tool. Some of you have heard of SMART goals. We just added an ER, right? So how do we develop these? So specific, very specific. So in the next 90 days, I'm going to call 100 people. That's specific. I'm going to call 100. Is that measurable? Absolutely. 90 days, right? 100 people. Is it attainable? All that you have to judge for yourself. You got to know your cadence at work, how much stuff you got going on. Is it relevant? Is it relevant? See, this is where it's important. If it's not relevant, in other words, if making those 100 calls and talking to those people, yeah, it'll make you more money, but frankly, you don't feel a need to make more money, then maybe it's not relevant. And if it's not relevant, but your boss wants it, now you've got a disconnect here. Now you got to go, well, keeping my job is relevant, therefore I'll do the work. But I'm not doing it because I think it's relevant. But if you said my family and doing that trip to Europe or that trip to Disneyland is really important, maybe it becomes relevant again because you're going to take that money and you're going to give it to your family to have an experience together. I was at one of my business functions the other day and I was listening to a gentleman talk about how he took $100 every week and put it aside and how joyful it was to gather his family around after 5 years of doing this, dump all the money on the table and book a trip together. it was pretty impactful for him and his family, and they got to do an amazing trip. But that's how he created that. The goal was a small little habit, $100 a week, right? Put it away, and then it fit his goal of developing time with his family. Time bound. I already talked about this one. 90 days. Enjoyable. Well, prospecting, 100 calls. Yeah, maybe it doesn't fit in the enjoyable. So what do I got to do with that? I got to trick my brain. I can't talk about the act of it because that's not enjoyable. But what's the result? The result's very enjoyable. That's where the vision board comes in. That's where having that picture comes in. For some of you who do have to prospect, maybe you're like, Chad, I can't trick my brain. The concept of calling strangers is way too scary. Never going to happen. Don't want to do it. I understand. So I had that same problem too. When I bought Sandler, I was struggling with that. My coach just kept saying, Chad, you just got to talk to 2 people a day. You just got to talk to 2 people a day. I finally figured out, oh, he's not telling me I have to cold call 100 people. He's telling me I got to talk to 2 people. So I found a way to make it enjoyable. And what I did, I just went, what do I really like doing? One of the things I love to do is getting up in front of people and talking. I love it, right? It's easy for me. It's fun. I get a lot of energy from, interacting with different kinds of people. And so for me, I just figured out, hey, you know what? If I get free talks, that will put people in the room, and I will then meet my goal of meeting these people. So it really helped me out. It started to become enjoyable, and I was motivated to then do the behavior. So for some of you, if you have to go meet strangers and that's not enjoyable, you might need to find a way to make meeting strangers enjoyable in a different way and a different fashion. And that's where the enjoyable and rewarding come from. So smarter goals, right? They support your vision. They support your outlook. And if we're going to do them consistently, you got to figure out how to do that. The other part of it for me is what I call trapping behaviors. A couple of years ago, I had a really big goal to get in shape. I wanted to figure out if I could do something. I knew that buying the gym membership wouldn't work for me. It didn't cost me a lot of money, and I'd make all kinds of excuses about why not to get up at 5 a.m. So instead, I hired a personal trainer who was waiting for me at 6 in the morning because my trapping behavior is I'll never let somebody down. And so I need to get there. I need to get to the gym. So he was always waiting for me. I got up. I didn't enjoy all the workouts, but I enjoyed the results. I enjoyed the camaraderie of having somebody who cared for me to achieve my goals in that process. I did enjoy that. I didn't enjoy the workout necessarily, but all of that helped me achieve the goals that I had for my physical self because I did that, right? So when you're sitting there thinking about goals, make sure you're using this kind of template. It's going to really help you out. So of course, from there, once we identified the goal, plan and action. Plan and action. I meet a lot of people who can make the goal. I have even people who can build the plan, but they don't have the discipline, vitality, or guts to execute it. They don't take action. And for all kinds of reasons. Fear, what if I'm a failure? What if I don't get it? And what I realized when I did goal setting, I used to set goals that I knew I could hit, right? Because I thought, well, if I didn't hit them, I am a failure. So when I bought this business a few years ago, I had a goal. I was going to double my revenue. Big goal. Double my revenue. After year 1, I went up like 5%. I was really down. I was really depressed. I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm a failure. I'm a failure. And I was talking to my coach about that, and he said, okay, I know you didn't achieve your goal, but did you go up? And I said, yeah. Well, I moved up 5%. He goes, well, what are you doing for behaviors? What's your plan? Shared my plan, shared my behaviors. He went, okay, I like that. Tweak this, change that, maybe try that. Gave me some good advice. Next year, double my revenue. Nope. I went up like 10%. Incredibly frustrated. I was incredibly frustrated. I'm like, oh, I'm a failure. I did it again. Why can't I do this? Right? I was like, I think I want to give up. I'm doing something wrong, right? Talking to my coach. He says, whoa. So you went up 5% last year. I'm like, yeah. You went up 10% this year. I'm like, yeah. Well, let's go through your plan. Went through the plan, went through the behaviors, fine-tuned some stuff, got honest with myself about some of the behaviors I wasn't doing that I needed to do. year 3, we doubled, right? It didn't happen overnight. Some of the goals that you might be putting on your vision board are very big, are very tough. They're not easy. But when you start breaking them down into steps and keep revisiting the why behind you wanted to double. I wanted to double to create an income stream for my family. That's why I wanted to double. Not because it just looked good. I really had a good reason for it. So I kept with the behavior. I kept with the action plans. I was really, really super critical. But for a lot of people is that they don't take action. And for whatever reason, they're scared. They're worried something's going to happen. Maybe they think they're going to be a failure. And a lot of it comes back to the belief wheel that I'm sharing with you right now. So the belief wheel is pretty straightforward, right? We all have beliefs. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. That's possible. That's not possible. There's so much studying now around how beliefs dictate behavior. A lot of people believe in a fixed mindset that your talent is limited, that you should only set certain goals for yourself, that you shouldn't dream too big. And you might have people in your life who told you that. They said, no. You're not destined for that. Don't go there, right? That's unattainable. And you believe them. And so because you believe them, you made judgments around trying. I'm not going to try that hard. It's probably not even possible, which means you took no action, which means you got the same results. The belief I used to have around health goals, I'm not an athlete. I'm not good. I suck. So what did I do? I didn't try. What happened? I was last in the class. Guess what? I dropped out of anything physical. It was all a circle. My trainer said, and he was highly athletic, by the way. He said, well, why do you believe that? What if you did put effort into it? What would happen? And I saw tremendous success by changing my beliefs. Well, that's a health belief, physical belief. Some of you have beliefs around learning. Some of you have beliefs around maybe starting a business. Some of you maybe have beliefs around growing your sales territory. And whatever that belief is, if it's negative, you're going to act accordingly. If you have beliefs that I can't call CEOs, they won't take my call, therefore you don't do it, therefore guess what happens? No result. You prove yourself right. On the other hand, if you say I'm equal to a CEO, I can help them, I can help their business, why wouldn't they take my call? Then you'll take the action of making the call, and guess what? I guarantee you some of those people might be interested. Not all of them, but some might. And if only a couple are, what difference does that make to your goals for 2020? How will that impact your overall success? So check your beliefs. Fixed mindset. Are you showing that? Are you putting out goals for 2020 that, you know what, you already got them in the bag? No stretch there. Nothing going to challenge you, right? And that's, it's okay to have a couple of those, but you should have a couple of goals on there that scare you. You should have something on there that makes you go, oh my God, I don't know. That'll be hard, right? Because it's not so much the goal, it's the journey, right? If you create the right habits and behaviors and enjoy the journey of that, right, that are connected to your values, you'll keep pushing, right? You will get to places you never thought was even possible. So behavior, right? We went back in the poll section. Everybody said this is the hardest thing to change. Here's the thing. It's 100% controllable by you. But you got to be able to define it, count it, and measure it. You got to be able to put it in your day. You got to trick your body, your mind, your belief system sometimes to get that in there. You got to make it small and you got to make it measurable. And then count it for 90 days. Did I do it? Did I not do it? In sales, with sales teams, we call these cookbooks, right? That's to hit sales goals. But in life, you could have health goals that are around behavior. How many push-ups a day, right? The psychologist that I mentioned earlier who talked about changing a habit and creating good ones, what did he do? He coupled the behavior, right? So he said, I'm going to do 7 push-ups a day. I think we all can do 7. How did he do that? He says, I go to the bathroom 7 times a day. Every time I go to the bathroom, I'm going to come out and do 1 push-up. Now, looks a little weird probably if you're in the office doing that, but he just coupled it. And then at the end of the day, he celebrated it. And then he started just keeping adding and adding and adding. And lo and behold, at the end of it, he had done thousands of push-ups. So it's really critical that your behaviors are clear and that you can define them in black and white binary mode. A couple other things, the how. We talked about defining the behavior. Time blocking, very, very simple thing to do. Block the time in your calendar to do it. Otherwise, it probably never happens. So relationship, right? When you always say, hey, buddy, maybe you got a good college friend and you're somebody you haven't seen for a while, and you say, yeah, we should get together. And they say, yeah, we should get together. And guess what happens? Nobody gets together because you don't time block it. You don't say, hey, Friday nights, 7 o'clock, let's go, let's meet, let's go play darts, right? Because that is something in your life that you want. You want that connection. But if you're not intentful about it, it probably never happens. You got to make time for it. You got to block it. If it's prospecting in your sales role, you got to time block it. You got to say Thursdays from 3 to 4, man, that is time that we reach out to prospects. A cadence of accountability. Again, if it matters, you're going to create accountability, whether that's internally with somebody in your business that you're going to meet with, a peer, somebody you respect, a family member, but something or someone that creates accountability. I shared my health story, and I said the only way I ever, made any impact on my health was to pay a lot of money and go meet somebody at 6 a.m. That was accountability for me. I was not going to not miss that meeting. That's how I had to do it. If I just bought the gym membership, it was never going to happen. And then we got to review the cadence, right? Are we doing it enough? Every 90 days, you should be reviewing your goals. How am I doing? Am I close? What needs to change? What behaviors have I done? What have I not done? If I'm not doing the behavior, do I have a trap? Do I have accountability? One of my other clients did something really interesting. I thought was interesting between these two salespeople. And so what they did is when they would write a check, they would write a check for $1,000. Okay, they had to sign it. And if they did not hit their sales targets, that other person would take the check, and that check was made out to a charity that they would never, ever in their life support. I thought it was pretty funny. It worked for them, and it made them do their behaviors because they did not want to see their money going to a charity they didn't support, or a political party, I think was the other thing. They would send it to a political party they would never vote for. So it's kind of a way to trap them in those consistent behaviors. So I shared the Sandler success triangles earlier on. This is more of a much bigger, blown out version of them because it really deals with a couple of key things around mindset, right? How do you see yourself? How do you see your body, your mind, your spirit, your market, all of that stuff that you're working in? And what are you doing with that part? Because if that part's not good, it's not right. Your goals are either going to be too weak, not really relevant to you. You're going to struggle with that. The behavior side, right? Plan, right? Black and white, binary, cadence, accountability. And sometimes you need 30 seconds of courage to actually do the behavior. In sales, you know what? A lot of times it's meeting strangers, stranger danger. You got to go out and meet a stranger and talk to them. It's 30 seconds of terror. And at the end of it, you're probably alive still. It's just doing it, right? Having that guts. And then, of course, some of you need some technique to help you with it. You got to just get better at it, and you will achieve those goals. Maybe that technique comes from a mentor, comes from a training program, something that allows you then to achieve the goals that you've put out for yourself in 2020. So, outcome. If you commit to your goals, and if you got business goals in here, I believe you can get a 10 times return on your investment. I doubled my business revenue in 3 years through the small behaviors that I did. And I continue to set goals around growth and change and all that kind of stuff because I believe I should always be growing. So a couple things that we wanted to offer you. We're kind of coming to the end of this. How can we help you out? Well, if you look at your goal chart and you go, oh my God, I got a prospect because I need money to go on a trip, or I need more revenue in my business so I can hire more people, or whatever it is, we have got a prospecting workshop. Now, this is a live workshop. It's coming up on next Friday. You need to call our office, 780-449-4906. And we got a $595 webinar special. Normally it's $995. But if you phone us today or tomorrow, we'll give you that price point. It's going to be a full day. It's going to be working through the planning, and then how do we execute, and the skills to do all that. We're going to have some practice in there. So if that makes sense for anybody on this call, please feel to reach out to us. We have something called a gap analysis. Those of you who have maybe some sales teams out there who are on the call, we can do this, what we call a gap analysis for you. We kind of look at where you're at and where you need to be. A little bit of a process behind that if you're interested. And if you're looking for some things around some tools around sales like pre-call planners, care tools, if you email us, we'd be happy to share those with you. Just give us what you took away from the goal setting session. So we're at the end of it today. I promised we'd get you out under the hour. It looks like we are going to be successful with that. And if anyone has anything they want to ask us, I'll stay on the line for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, we really appreciate you being on with us today. We really appreciate you. Hopefully, you got something out of this, and we will give you a LinkedIn, or sorry, a link to the actual webinar that you can look at it again. So thanks, everybody. Much appreciated. All right, sure enough.